What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to talk about Chris Paul and where you think Chris Paul ranked in the history of point guards, right? Some people have Chris Paul ranked in the top 5. Some people say top 10. And I was listening to what podcast was this? Run It Back with Michelle Beadle and the her two co-hosts. What's the guy name? Lou Williams and I forgot the other guy. I keep forgetting his name. But anyway, they were talking about Chris Paul and where they think that Chris Paul ranks as far as point guards. And personally, my opinion is Chris Paul top 5. I don't think so. He might be top 10, but definitely, in my opinion, definitely not top 5. So what I want to do is I want to play the audio from the Run It Back podcast, get their opinions, and then come back and give my take on where I think Chris Paul, where he ranks as far as point guards.
As much news as possible, but he started out in North Carolina. It's official. Chris Paul on Saturday, before the Clippers took on the Hornets, had a little social media post saying, back in North Carolina, what a ride. Still so much left. Grateful for this last one. And then, of course, Shams later on reporting, yep, he is retiring after the season. He's from Winston-Salem. Lou, you will always be connected as you guys were traded for each other, basically the same trade. He went to the Rockets. Tell me how you'll remember his career. We'll start now. We're going to start early, even though he's got a whole season.
I'll remember Chris as a peer. You know, not only what we traded for each other later in our careers, and throughout, we were same draft class in 2005. So this was somebody that I went to draft workouts with and got an opportunity to compete against. He was at Wake Forest, coming out of Wake. And I was a high school kid coming out at the time, trying to find my way. So this is somebody I competed with, you know, over 17 plus years in the NBA. You know, he's the only guy in our draft class that played longer than I did. I'm second place to him for his 21 years to my 17 out of our draft class. So ultimate competitor is going to go down as one of our steals leaders, going to go down as one of our assist leaders. You know, obviously the only thing that he didn't accomplish was winning the NBA championship. Other than that, he's well respected. He's going to go down as a Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame level guy, all of which he deserves. Top 75 player in this league. He was the blueprint to a lot of these young point guards out here that wanted to learn how to lead a team, that wanted to be a leader, that wanted to be a franchise player at their point guard position. And that's how we will remember Chris Paul. He made friends. He turned some guys that were friends into foes. That's what type of competitor that he was. You know, he went about his business in only the way that CP3 could. And he's going to go down as a legend, as an icon, and one of the best players to play the position of point guard of all time for us.
All right, so that was Lou Williams, right? And Lou Williams did say he made friends and he turned some players into some of his teammates into foes. And that's the gripe that I have when it comes to Chris Paul. And because I always look back at when he played for Phoenix, and they had him, Devin Booker, and what was the other guy? DeAndre Ayton, right? And I look at his leadership when he was playing with him, and I was thinking at the time that he was going about trying to motivate DeAndre Ayton the wrong way, right? And I felt like at the time that was a big part of the reason why they couldn't get past Milwaukee. You know, they didn't win when they played against the Milwaukee Bucks in that championship. And so I thought that was a missed opportunity for Chris Paul to get a champion when they played against the Milwaukee Bucks. And then over the years, I've heard that other players that really didn't get along with Chris Paul on his team. And I think that goes into like leadership, right? Is Chris Paul a great leader? I kind of question his leadership. You know, like he more so, it's one thing to push your teammates and to try to motivate them and encourage them. But when he he took the coach on the floor literally. And in some cases, I believe that Chris Paul probably overstepped his bounds, and that kind of hindered him as far as being able to motivate his teammates the right way. Him and what's the other guy? Blake Griffin didn't always get along. Him and DeAndre Jordan didn't always get along, right? And so that's why when I think of other point guards, and I'm thinking of guys that I will definitely put ahead of him: Magic, John Stockton, Isaiah Thomas, Jason Kidd, who else? And then I would probably like Tony Parker. I would put ahead of him. Let me see, Rajon Rondo. Even though some people might definitely question that, but I'm saying because Chris Paul, he played longer than a lot, had a longer career than a lot of people, but he wasn't able to be what his team needed when his team needed that and get them over the hump. All these other guys, they did, they was able to get their teams over the hump. And so just right off the top of my head, I can think of at least 6 guys. And I would even put like Avery Johnson. Did I say Tony Parker? Avery Johnson, Tony Parker, Tony Parker ahead of them, right? Because of what they were able to be, what their teams needed as far as a point guard and get their teams past it. Let me see. I'm trying to think. What about Sam Cassell, like as a point guard? Like, is Sam Cassell better than Chris Paul? I would say so. Like when you look at Sam Cassell in the first championship he won with the Houston Rockets, Sam Cassell was a role player, right, with the Houston Rockets because they had Kenny Smith as was the other point guard there, and Sam Cassell played his role. But later on in Sam Cassell's career, who did he win another ring with? And he played more of a like, I don't know. I just think that this guy, Chris Paul, he'd been around a long time and he got a lot of stats, but that's not really, in my opinion, that's not the main part of it. So let me get back to some more of what these other Lou Williams, other co-hosts, has to say about Chris Paul.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys too. When you watch him from afar and you don't know Chris Paul, you hate him, and it's because of how he competes and because how he played and because just everything that he brought to the game. Or if you weren't on his team or you didn't know him personally, he's one of those guys that you couldn't stand, and I think that's a gift. I think he's going to be remembered as one of the top point guards of all time. Look at his resume: 12-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA, 9-time All-Defense as a pass-first point guard. It's just super impressive. 2 gold medals with Team USA, and he's just a great dude. And I remember my rookie year, obviously knowing who he is, looked up to him, and I remember after the game, I see my dad. My dad has the biggest smile on his face, and he's like, "You wouldn't believe he just came up to me." Chris Paul, just like right when he walked out, we had the family passes. Chris Paul came up, introduced himself to my dad, and said how he loved my game, and he's going to be watching me for the rest of my career. Like, that's the kind of stuff that no one really hears about Chris Paul. That when you go through it, you have a whole other level of respect and appreciation for him. So outside of him being, a top point guard of all time to ever play in the NBA, he's also a great dude off the court. He gets a bad rep.
Yeah. Listen, a couple years ago, we were at a wedding, and he and I were having a conversation. I had just recently retired, and he was like, "Man, what's it like being on the outside looking in?" He was kind of weighing his options at that moment because we start talking about our families and. I was coaching women's basketball at that time. I had to get to be active with my daughter's journey to being a basketball player. And he had the same with his daughter and his son. And, he was just like, "Man, I'm missing too many moments. It's such a pivotal time in their lives. And I just feel like I was missing everything." So I felt like him going to Los Angeles, him being a Clipper, was going to remedy a lot of that so he could be around his kids and be a part of their journeys. And now to know that this is coming to a close and his son is actually, turning into a prep star as well, I'm happy for Chris and I'm happy for his family. And I hope that he finds peace in his 21 years as one of the best basketball players ever after they cross.
That's how you know we're all Lou. I remember that kid was a baby. Now he's unstoppable. It goes fast.
Is he little? Is his son like how?
Oh, he's a teenager now.
Is he a tall kid or is he?
He's taller than Pops. I tell you that. He's taller than Pops, and he got a shot. He can actually play. So that's a great thing. He can actually hoop. So
I like this. Spurs fans will forever ever never smile at him for Game 7, 2015. So it's a tough one. You're right, Chandler. If he's not on your team, oh my gosh, just a
Yeah, I mean, but you do have to admit that like Chris Paul is definitely a competitor, and I've been following Chris Paul since he was at Wake Forest. I remember playing in college and stuff like that. But like I said, in my honest opinion, I think he's top 10. You know, and I'm just going like off the top of my head where I know like he definitely is not top 5, whereas though you know, he's like one of the top 5 point guards, and I probably can go like about 8 before I would consider like it get closer. But yeah, he top 10, but I wouldn't say top 5.
Let's do the rankings. You know, we have to. We won't go Kenyon Martin style, 200 of them, but where is he on the point guards of all time list for you? I mean, it's a pretty serious list of names.
Yeah, I mean, you got Steph and Magic. These guys that MVPs, the rest have won championships, but
not top 5, not top 5. So this guy Chandler says top 5, right? But like if I'll never put Steph in that point guard. But all right, you got Magic, you got Steph, you got Isaiah, you got Jason Kidd. He said Nash. I would go Nash. Then you got Tony Parker. I would put Tony Parker ahead of him. So that's 6. Avery Johnson. I like Avery Johnson. That's 7. What about Sam Cassell? In my opinion, I think Sam Cassell, that would be 8. What about Rondo? I think Rondo was a better point guard. Although Rondo, yeah, so that's 9 right there. And I know I'm forgetting somebody. So yeah, I don't know, man. He might not be able to make the top 10.
You went through his resume already, but 12 All-Stars, 11 All-NBA. It's on the top 45 team. 6 times steals leader, 5 times assists leader. You talk about the gold medalist.
And as far as all those stats, man, those longevity stats, I'm not impressed with those longevity stats, because now that you know, like all the points that you accumulate over a 20-year career, all the steals that you accumulate over a 20-year career, a lot of that you don't like. Magic, Bird, John Stockton. Oh, did I say John Stockton? I don't know if I even left John Stockton out. John Stockton top 5, right? So anyway, like Magic, Bird, John Stockton, Isaiah, that's 4 right there. Then you got Jason Kidd. Like a lot of those longevity stats, like those guys are not in there. And you know, so yeah, I mean, Chris Paul, it'll be hard for him to get. Now that I'm thinking about it, it'll be hard for him to crack that top 10. You know, and so that's my opinion. But let me know what you all think. Do you think that Chris Paul is top 10? Do you agree with me or disagree that, you know, Chris Paul is in the top? I think it'll be hard for Chris Paul, in my opinion, to crack that top 10, to crack that top 10 point guard of all time. So with that being said, man, y'all make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.